We're live. Excellent. Perfect. So, hi, welcome. Thank you everybody for hanging in there while we got our setup going on over here. And yeah, thanks for tuning in for what is the premiere of Bag of Giving here on Arvin Aileron's Twitch channel. So, yay! I'm going to do a very quick little intro as to kind of what this is and what we're doing here, because we're brand new on this channel and brand new in existence. And I feel like I should explain a little bit. So super short version is that we're basically myself and another author, Mike Underwood, who I believe is watching out there somewhere in the ether. Mike, I don't know where you are. We were talking a little while ago, and I can't see the chat, so I'm assuming that Mike is responding. Yeah, so we were talking a little while ago about the fact that we wanted to play more games, and especially wanted to play with our fellow creative people. Because often that's the best storytelling and the, kind of the most fun that you can have at a table doing a tabletop RPG is with creative people, whether they're artists or authors or musicians or what have you. There's some kind of special that happens during that, and so we were like, let's do it because we're not busy, and reached out to a bunch of people, and to my genuine surprise, a whole ton of people said yes, including the three individuals who are here on the screen with me right now. And so we have a whole slew of games lined up. We have a whole slew of creative people who are going to join us and play a whole bunch of different one-shots and spotlight some games that are maybe a little less known and play some better known titles. And just kind of have some fun. And so if you go to our website, bagofgiving.com, you'll see kind of our first few games on our schedule, and then there'll be more to come. We have enough games scheduled like all the way through August. I'm not even joking. At the same time, we're going to be doing a ton of giveaways as well. So we're going to spotlight a bunch of charities. I will talk a little bit more about that after our break. But that's the second goal of this, is to put some good out into the world, because the world could use some good. But yeah, but having fun and doing good is really the goal here. Before I get these fine folks with me on the screen to introduce themselves, I got to give a huge thanks to Greg Wilson, whose channel we are on right now, for giving us a home and letting us take over his stream a few times, to Brandon O'Brien, who is in the ether, or Brandon Prime, as we decided on, who is in the ether, doing our tech behind the scenes right now. So huge thanks to them for helping us out. I feel like we should do some player intros, and then I'll be turning it over to Dave to get us started on our game. So I didn't introduce myself. I'm Brandon Crilly. I'm an Ottawa-based writer of short fiction mostly, although soon to be other things that will be announced very soon. Here in the blighted wintry hellscape that is Ottawa, I'm one of the programming leads for CanCon, our local sci-fi, fantasy, and horror conference, and I'm one of the co-hosts, co-runners of this very fancy Bag of Giving thing. Dave, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Dave Ring. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. And you were like, I was surprised that people wanted to play games, and I think you had to tell me to stop signing up for them, Dave. But I'm a writer, publisher, and editor of short work, longer stuff that I'm hustling around, and then editor mostly of anthologies and novellas. And I'm delighted to be here. Maybe I'll throw it to Gailey.
I will catch it. Hello, I'm Sarah Gailey. I'm an author of fiction and nonfiction of various lengths. My most recent book is The Echo Wife, and you can buy it if you want to, and if you don't, you can go to a library and get it. I'm saying that because my publicist is like, please tell people that your book exists. Please stop forgetting. I was so excited to be invited to this. I am relatively new to tabletop, but enthusiastic, and will bring that enthusiasm to make up for the newness as much as I can.
I guess that's me now. Hi everyone, I'm Irene. I'm the resident composer of the Shale Project, which is an indie multimedia world building initiative based in Toronto. nope, Hamilton now, but Toronto. Yeah, I'm not a writer, but I am CanLit adjacent. I have to read a lot for my job. I'm composing a concept album for The Heretic's Guide to Homecoming by Sienna Tristan. And I'm so excited to be here. This game is so much fun.
Excellent. Awesome. Yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dave, who is going to lead us through Fall of Magic, published by Heart of the Deernicorn. And we're going to be using actually their brand new online platform, digital edition for this game, generously gifted to us. So a huge thank you to them for giving us access to that. So yeah, Dave, I put you in the seat.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the Fall of Magic revised. So if you're following along at home and you've something is slightly different, that'll be your reason. So Fall of Magic is a story game where we're telling the story of a group of travelers. And here's the thing that I should have done beforehand is there is a word in this game that I pronounce a certain way. I think it's wrong, but I'm just going to say it. And then I'm just going to let y'all say it your own way. Because what we're doing is we're a group of travelers in the company of the Magus, and literally everyone else I know says Magus. So we can say it however y'all want to say it. We can mix it up. But I've been ashamed of this in public before, and I still haven't fixed it.
Magoose.
in the company of the Magoose.
It's when you're trying to be a gentleman and you see a large waterfowl. Magoose.
What could go wrong? So, in the company of our esteemed steward of the old arts, who shall not be named for a minute until I stop laughing, on the way we'll encounter strange hosts, fantastic places, and perilous choices as we play to discover who our characters are, how they relate, and how our journey changes them. So we're just going to be doing one session. We're going to see how far we can get. We haven't picked characters or anything, so we're going to do that all live in front of you. But before we get into that part, we're going to just share the setup because that feels pretty important for getting us situated in Fall of Magic. So I'll read this first part. So Fall of Magic, it's a collaborative story game, and there are many ways to tell a story. We can talk casually, like in a conversation, narrate as authors, perform as actors, or mix several styles all at once. Irene, I expect you to just score everything on the spot. That feels reasonable. Do whatever feels natural or challenge yourself to try something new. I might score as well, but I only play the kazoo. We'll see how that goes. Brandon, will you read the next bit?
I'd be happy to. Each of us is both a writer in the writing room and a fan in the audience. Feel free to casually converse, share ideas, or just wonder out loud about the story, the characters, or anything else that interests you as we play. And I will turn it over to Irene.
Okay. Think small. When it is time to make something up, think small and don't plan too far ahead. Let the story be a wondrous beast we chase but never capture. Ask questions with no clear answer, raise conflicts with no ready solution. By letting go, the story we find together will be more profound than anything we might have planned alone. And Gailey.
Social fantasy. In Fall of Magic, play centers around relationships and the exploration of culture in a world where things are possible that are not possible in our daily lives. Our story will come to life if we treat the characters like they were alive. So make them diverse, nuanced, and sometimes contradictory. Use this space to imagine and explore beyond the restrictions and stereotypes we experience outside of the game. And I think back to Dave.
And in the rules, we talk a little bit about safety and something called the X card, which is a safety tool. We will be using that amongst ourselves as needed. We'll be using it in our chat, so you might not see it. But we've established that we're hoping to keep content warnings for the session fairly minimal and a fade to black for anything that feels like it's challenging to just ascertain if the audience is into it. With that said, if anything in the game is something, be kind to yourself, and no pressure from us if you need to step away from the stream. Okay. So we are going to slide over to the scroll, which y'all might have been looking at the entire time. I'm not sure.
It is so cool.
The scroll is beautiful, both on the screen and also in person. If you have magpie-like tendencies, I highly recommend getting one of these for yourself. We, the coins are in the way.
Oh no.
It's my fault. So magic is dying, and the Magoose, I can't do that, and the mage is dying with it. We travel together to the realm of Umbra, where magic was born. So eyeballing here, so we have a list of names, which you're not actually restricted to, but they're helpful if you earn a spot. Then each of us should be from a different town, and we'll have one of those titles. And I know y'all have been sneaking peeks at this beforehand. So if anyone is very excited to tell us who they are, this is your moment.
I'll jump on it. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I would like to be Caspian, the midwife of Barleytown.
Love it.
And then do I take a coin?
Yeah, and tell us which coin represents you, and then you can drag that coin up to Ravenhall, which is where we're going to start once everyone's picked their stuff.
I'm taking this sword looking coin. I'm choosing violence. And that belongs to me, Caspian, the midwife of Barleytown. I'm saying it again so I don't forget between now and the next.
And when you have a chance, if you can change your Zoom name, and if you can give us Caspian's pronouns in there too, that would be delightful.
Brilliant.
Does anyone else know who they are? It's a deep question. Sorry. It's just like pretend I'm your co-star app. Do you know who you are today?
You know who you are. Midwife of Barleytown. Okay, I'm gonna go with. Do I like any of the names that are there? I'm gonna say I am Foothill, the giant of Mistwood.
Ooh.
I love it.
Are you the actual Foothill?
We'll find out.
So cool.
I mean, I love it. Yeah, I'm the actual Foothill. That would be cool. The giant of okay. And I gotta pick a coin. I will go with. I'm gonna go with the candle.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Brandon, when you said your pronouns for this character.
Sorry, he, him pronouns.
Fantastic. I think I have one. I would like to be. These names are so lovely. I think I'll be Justice, the apprentice of Ravenhall. And I'll use they them pronouns for Justice. And I think I might choose this. I'll choose this. I'll choose this Raven because I'm from Ravenhall.
Perfect.
So and Gailey, what were Caspian's pronouns? I missed them because I was thinking about my name.
Him.
Okay.
And I will be Fawn, the scholar of Estalia. And I use she, her, and I will be this tree.
Sorry, I just noticed that one of the occupation options is crab singer. And I'm quitting writing to pursue a new career.
I have never been brave enough to be the crab singer.
Oh shit, wait. Then maybe
Carcinization. How do you say that word? Carcinization.
Carcinization?
Yeah, too scary.
If someone wants to be the crab singer, you can only do it if you serenade him. You have to earn it.
Well, here. So Fawn has been studying in the same hall as the crab singers and absorbing a lot of information, but has always been too afraid to try singing to crabs herself. So maybe we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I see a character arc.
Oh, that means I have to change my name here too. Okay, so everyone should be moving their. I don't want to edit my profile picture and change my name. Rename. Okay.
Foothill is such a good name for a giant, by the way.
So good, yeah.
Thank you. I was like, what can I go with that's a giant?
Okay, so everyone should be moving their coins up onto the picture that says Ravenhall. Oh, and we need a token to represent the Magus.
The Magus.
You almost did it again, didn't you?
Sorry.
I discussed before, and it tends to be better with this game, I find, to have a more somber approach. Otherwise, it would be the Magus. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
I've written it down for later on the Twitters.
Does anyone have a token they want to decide is the Magus?
How do we feel about the sea?
I love it.
Love it.
I like
What's more magical?
Yeah.
No arguments. Okay. We chose our tokens. We placed the Magus. So we are going to take turns. Anyone can go first, and then we're going to go clockwise. But we don't have a clock or a table. So, for the sake of, I think let's not worry too much about clockwise, and maybe just
we can know the order of like the names on the side of the screen for Full of Magic.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
What is that order?
It's Dave, Brandon, Gailey, and me.
Oh no, that means I'm second.
I love it because it means I'm third.
Oh, on the tabletop. Perfect, because then we don't have to scroll all the time to find it. I love it. Okay, so we're gonna drag our token to one of these headings. There's 5 of them in red. And then we're gonna narrate a scene. We talked a little bit beforehand about how that part works. The only bit is you need to include that phrase, either metaphorically or directly within your scene. And you'll notice that one of them, instead of a phrase, has 3 qualities. There's no stats in this game, but the phrases that have those pluses in front of them sort of give you permission to embody that quality in such a way that is larger than life, if you needed any encouragement. And to the fact that you have that quality in almost like a mythical proportion. So as part of having a scene in that location, you would bestow that one of those adjectives to either yourself or to another character. I am the tree, and I will go to the menagerie, which I'm going to put it here, so I'm only half covering the name. The menagerie at Ravenhall is an assortment of gilded bronze and silver cages that don't have doors. They're all unlocked gates that the denizens were once able to push open and pull closed as they so chose. But the metals have all gone the way of various chemical practices that happen to metals, which would be what happens to different things. Like copper goes green, the silver goes dull, all of the different sadnesses that come to their various metals, and the fancy like the couch for the cockatrice and the unicorn's banquet and the corrosion. Thank you. All of the corrosions have occurred. All of the place settings for the basilisks, those are all in disarray and been picked over by people who have been scavenging in the grounds, no longer afraid of the mages of Ravenhall. And there's one cage in particular made of I'm trying to think of what a watery metal would be. Something that's like important to my hometown. Does anyone know a metal that's commonly used around like aquatic places?
That's a good question.
Something that doesn't rust, probably.
Yeah, so
Like a steel.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
literally a stainless steel. There's this one stainless steel cage. And this is where the Estalian crabs once stayed. And they're empty, just like all of the enclosures for Estalian crabs have been for so long. And I don't know. I expected to feel something. I came all this way from Estalia in the hopes that there would be something that would be a reason for the study I've put my entire life to. And the cage is empty. But I still spend time there in the hopes that something will make itself meaningful. And when it doesn't, I go back to the grounds and see who else is here for this foolish quest. So that's my scene.
That's cool, man.
So Foothill, you're next on the menu.
All right, so I'm gonna move myself to. I'm gonna move myself to the Great Hall because I can.
Foothill. Before you talk, I already
yes.
broke my rule. I didn't use the phrase the last time I saw real magic. It's the one rule of this game.
Dave. I go ahead, Fawn.
Yeah. I think that's the point, right? Is that I keep waiting for a sign of real magic. And maybe, and just maybe, when I'm walking away and the wind is kind of whistling through the space between the bars, and if I had just been a little bit more careful, a little bit more paying attention, it would have sounded a bit like a crab.
Oh.
And that would have been the last time I saw real magic, but I did not
Nice.
look. Okay, sorry, your turn.
Oh, that was awesome. Oh man. Okay, so Foothill is in the Great Hall. So I'll just move it just beside here, so I'm not blocking it. Okay, hospitality, the magus matters. And the Great Hall, much like the Menagerie and much of Ravenhall these days, is very quiet, except for this kind of soft murmuring that no one is nearby to hear, because Foothill is sitting in the Great Hall by himself. And the Great Hall is frequently empty. Ravenhall being what it is, doesn't get a lot of traffic these days. And on one level, Foothill knows that he shouldn't expect there to be anybody in the Great Hall to talk to. But there's another part of him that can't escape the thought that it's empty because he's in there. Because to look at Foothill from a distance, he is, taller and broader than the average being. Long but very well maintained dark hair, but these very delicate features despite his overall size, his overall dimensions. And as he's sitting at this table in the Great Hall, from afar, all you can see is you can see kind of twitches as though he's clearly fiddling with something, but he's kind of hunched over the table, partially hiding it from view just in case anybody comes in, because he's worried that if the first thing that people see is what he has, that he might get in trouble, and so he doesn't want anybody to see that. But every once in a while he'll glance over his shoulder at the door and wonder, oh, maybe somebody will come in. He's half hoping somebody will, just because he hasn't really spoken to anybody in quite some time. But the items in front of him are similar to the aging metal of those cages in the Menagerie, but also different at the same time, in that, you know, they're obviously aged, very delicate design work on this set of forks and knives and spoons that Foothill has collected, but they're the only ones that he could find without any tarnish on them, and he's just studying them. Because so much about this place, and so much about what he's come across in his journey from the Mistwood, has become tarnished and aged. And so when he stumbled upon this mismatched set of utensils that was not, he just became fascinated by it, and was like, I want to hold this for a moment and see if I can just preserve this unblemished metal for as long as I can, because where he's going, he doesn't know if he'll come across anything like it again. And so he just sits there for a while and you know, furtively looks around and mutters to himself and thinks about who might have held these last. And when he's finally composed himself, he too gets up and heads to the grounds, because he knows that it's getting closer to the time to depart.
Well, that is completely lovely. I'm going to go to the scrying pool, the prompt for which is why you serve the magus. Caspian is very far from the person that he used to be. He's not that far from home, but he feels very far from home at Ravenhall. But he came here with a purpose. He delivered a child in Barleytown to a couple that thought they would never be able to have children. They had tried and tried, and it just hadn't worked out. And they finally had a child, and Caspian delivered the child because Caspian is the midwife of Barleytown, and that is what Caspian does, and that is what Caspian has always done, and that is what Caspian has assumed he will always do every day for the rest of his life until he dies. But when this child was born, it wasn't like the other children. And Caspian has delivered lots of kinds of children, like not just little pink human ones, like lots and lots of kinds of children. It's hard to shake Caspian at a delivery, but Caspian looked at this baby and went, no, this one is different. Not in a bad or scary way. Different things aren't bad or scary, but in a startling way, because this baby's face was a mirror. And Caspian looked in the mirror and saw himself, and saw how sad and tired he was, and saw how unfulfilled he was by this very fulfilling job, and how much purpose was missing from his life. By the time he gave the baby to its mother, it had the face of a baby. It was all wrinkled up and had some gross goop on it and just looked like a baby. It was crying. The mother was very happy. The father was also very happy. They were both crying. The baby was crying. Caspian was crying and told them that it was just because he was so happy for them. But the truth is that Caspian doesn't think he's supposed to deliver babies anymore. And he came to Ravenhall to try to find out what it is that he's supposed to do. He'd heard legends of the magus and of the famous scrying pool that you can look into and see yourself as you're meant to be, instead of the sad and tired person who you are. And so Caspian came here to serve the magus for however long it might take to be allowed to look at the scrying pool. And now he's not sure he's ever going to get to look into the scrying pool. And he's not sure that purpose even exists anymore. So he's just going to do whatever needs doing until he can find out the answer.
That's haunting. If we can get cinematic for a moment, I think, like, we, as an audience, see Caspian's face reflected in the baby's mirror face, and we crossfade and into Justice's face in the river. And I'm going to choose the prompt, the bridge, your face in the river. So we see behind Ravenhall there is a little miniature bridge in a rock garden, with a very small stream underneath it, and it's barely running, and the bridge is quite old, and about 10 feet across from it you see young Justice, who has about collar length dark hair. It's kind of all messed up, and Justice has in their hands just a big slab of stone, and they're stacking them up to make a bridge that mimics the one that's already there. And there's an older woman right next to them who's kind of got her hands on her hips and is like, no, move it that way a little bit more. Because Justice is the apprentice of the architect of Ravenhall. And they've been working to, I think being an architect in this world, or at least at Ravenhall, means getting your hands dirty as well. It's not just sitting behind a drafting table with your blueprints. You have to start from the ground up. Like, you have to do things that would be considered like manual or unskilled labor in this world. You learn how to sand down the stones so that they fit together just right. You learn what materials withstand years and years of weather in the district of Ravenhall. And Justice admires their teacher immensely, and isn't fazed at all by how she is very meticulous. Does anyone have a name for this cool old butch architect? Lenny. That's great. I love it. Lenny the architect. Yeah, Lenny the architect has been my mentor for, I want to say, 5 years. Justice is about mid-20s. But they look very young, I think. They look, despite the hard manual labor that they've been doing, they don't seem to gain any muscle, and Lenny is always very perplexed and like playfully annoyed. Like, they have the kind of relationship where after their mentoring sessions they'll go have a meal together, and at a little restaurant or a little tavern, Lenny will clap Justice on the back and say, "Why aren't you gaining any muscle? We're lifting stones every day. What's happening?" And could someone actually play Lenny for me in this scene?
I gotcha.
You got me? Ah, fantastic. Thank you, Gailey. All right. So I think I after Lenny directs me on how to put this rock just right, I catch a glimpse of my face in the river, and I just pause, and I put the stone down, and I say, Lenny, I think I need to go out there and get some experience. I think maybe that's my next step.
What, are you going to get some experience weightlifting?
I really hope so. I mean, maybe someone out there can tell me how to put on some muscle. It doesn't seem to be working here. But I was also thinking maybe I can take some inspiration from other places with how they do their architecture, because, I mean, parts of Ravenhall keeps needing upkeep. And maybe there's just a secret that we don't know.
Lenny is visibly tearing up.
No, Lenny, don't cry. I'll write you.
No, I'm just so proud of you. I thought that you would never get here. I thought that you would never tell me that it was time for you to leave.
Oh. How long were you waiting for me to say that I would leave?
Too damn long. Are Lenny and Justice a physical contact level of friends?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Okay, I think that this is a big hug from Lenny moment, and it's gonna crack your back a little bit.
Yeah, like I'm just a very twig-like person, and I just like my spine's like ooh, like, and Lenny's so stout, like yeah, definitely. And I kind of like feebly reach my twig arms around her and give her a big hug. Yeah, and I think we still have our post mentoring session dinner. We make it a good one, and I head off to find the Magus.
I love that none of these scenarios discussed how we all just ended up being forced onto this thing, and I'm going to continue to elide that moment because it's for the best, and then we can kind of come back to it in flashbacks as necessary. So once we've each had a moment to tell a scene in a particular location, then the next person can tell another scene, or they can move the magus to the next location. So I will move the magus to the next location. And so now I'm going to narrate a scene or manage a scene as if it was my own character, but this time it's the magus. And then the first person to go in the next location will be Brandon. So that's how it kind of like shifts the first player kind of thing. We've all acquired black steeds with really intricate yet still dull silver harnesses, and like really beautiful fine work that you're still like nervous that if you touch it too hard it will fall to dust. The magus doesn't wait for us. There's no like gathering. I think at some point like pages were sent to all of our rooms or sleeping arrangements to say, oh, we were meant to have already left, and like the magus is on the road. Like she's not going like incredibly fast at first, but she's clearly just like it's time. And she has this like very impressive sort of like inky black raven cloak that she wears that makes her this kind of ominous smudge against the sky as we kind of move forward. And if you try to ride next to her at this point of the journey, she's like, nah, and just like goes like a little bit faster. So we're just sort of like bedraggled in whatever manages state of dress we were able to figure out and whatever gear we were able to grab. And sort of maybe and Fawn is like making eyes at everyone like, who are these jokers? And the strenuous, the sort of like unexpected athleticism of it all kind of takes away the moment where we would have had a chance to really get each other's measure, right? Instead, it's like, no, we're riding, and those of us who know how to ride are doing okay. Can foothill even fit on a horse, or like, do you? No, you're just kind of big strides.
Yeah, I have this. I'm leading my horse because no one asked. But
but you
like
you were afraid to say no, so you're like,
yeah,
oh,
I was like, oh no, yeah, of
now.
course. Just didn't even say anything. Just kind of nodded. Yep. Okay.
Just carrying it like a Pomeranian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's your dog. Like, you.
Yeah, I mean, this horse is his responsibility now. He can't let it go. Like,
Has he named it?
Aspen is the name of the horse.
Oh,
It's a good one.
I wrote that down. Aspen.
That's a good one.
that previously it was like a prep school boy kind of name in my head. So you're really doing a lot with it right now. But the ending of summer for the Oak Hills, which is sort of like the place where like Ravenhall is sort of like at the where the hills turn into mountains, like right at the bit there. The ending of summer is marked every year by the migration of the treants, and we're catching the very edge of it. So these huge creatures who are just as big as Foothill, but are going in the opposite direction and like trudging things, and then like dust and moss and dead things kind of going up in the air. And all the birds that have been living in the treants are very annoyed and sort of like squawking around and displeased that they are going to, well, they're either, it's like, get in the car, or you're out of here. And there is this one moment of humanity where the magus and the treants sort of like take each other's, I almost just said take each other's measure again, and it's like I just used that sentence where there's a shared understanding between them where this isn't the first time that the magus has seen them like this, even though this will be the last time. And Irene, do you want to be the magus? And Gailey, do you want to be the treants? I'm just curious, how do you look at each other? And do you say anything, or is this just what happens?
I think we're looking at the magus like we've seen so many lifetimes of you, and it's kind of like the sad but understanding way that you look at an aging pet, where you're like, yeah, this is how it goes for you guys, but it's sad, and you were special in your own really limited way.
I think the magus like is held in this moment just in silence, and I think is almost afraid to move because this feels like just by moving she might dispel this last meaningful moment. But eventually she takes a stumble forward and tries to reach for a tree and just hold on. Do you think she gets to hold on?
I think that in shared understanding, all of us simultaneously drop leaves. Just instantaneous the thing that happens in autumn that makes leaves turn yellow that I used to know the name of. Just instant, and we shed about half our leaves in a huge and sudden avalanche of red and gold in solidarity.
Oh, that's so sorry. It's heartbreaking. It's I think she takes a stumble forward and doesn't get to reach out, but is suddenly just showered by these golden, scarlet, brown leaves, and her next step is a crunch on the ground, and her next step is a crunch. And she kind of just stands there, and she lowers her head, and her cape kind of covers her face. And she takes a deep breath, and she turns back to the rest of the group, and she says, well, we have to go. It's time to go.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
So Foothill, you're the first scene in the Oak Hills. Okay.
Okay. Oh, that was magical. I gotta find my token. Where did I go? All right. Okay. I'm gonna go to making camp, because I see after that moment of watching, the tree ants depart, and then the Magus very clearly saying, okay, let's go. I think the party, we make our way, and as far as we can until evening, as the sun is starting to set, and lay out whatever our individual camping gear is, which in Foothill's case is not much, other than making sure that Aspen is comfortable, and as somebody off by a tree, and so and I think Fiddle spends a lot of time fussing over Aspen, but hasn't brought much to sleep on, because his people are used to roughing it. And he's actually more comfortable just sleeping in
Aspen
on grass.
has like this beautiful quilt, and you're just
yeah, basically, yeah, that's exactly it. Anything, yeah, all sorts of comfort for Aspen, and yeah.
It was like your scarf, right?
What's that?
It was, the quilt is your scarf.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like, and you notice, yeah, if you look at Foothil, you notice that like any sort of any sort of extra bits of clothing are gone now. They're all on Aspen. Like, he just has just what he needs for basic comfort and modesty. But as we're settling in, I think Foothill finds this boulder that is large enough in his mind, large enough to support his weight, even though he's lighter than I think he thinks he is. And just kind of sits down near the rest of you, and sits and looks in the direction of where we left the tree ants, even though none of them are visible now, and just kind of says to no one in particular, but to whoever is listening in the group, where do you think they went? Whoever would like to respond, if anyone does.
Fawn doesn't have answers, but she does have her notebook out, and she's ready to write down what everyone else says.
That's so funny, because I was also going to say, like, Justice is also like poised, like Justice had as soon as they could sit down, has started a letter that's like, "Dear Lenny," and I think they're also like ready to take notes, but they're like, well, I guess this type of wood is not very good for buildings.
Love it. And yeah, so Foothill, that he stares out, and if there isn't an immediate response, I think he says, I imagine they went somewhere better, somewhere nice, maybe somewhere warm. Do you think they went somewhere warm?
I don't think I've ever been anywhere warm.
That Foothill, will turn and look at you, and he has this flat isn't the right word for it. This very neutral, I think carefully neutral sort of expression on his face, and says, "Never."
I can't remember ever being in a place that was warm all on its own. There always had to be a blanket or a fire or someone else there making it warm. Have you been someplace warm?
I mean, not since the Mistwood, but I mean, the Mistwood is funny because it's and he kind of smiles to himself. It's full of mist, but it's not like mist that I've seen here. Like it's mist like a blanket, like it kind of folds around you and keeps you comfortable, and it's a sort of warmth that you don't really feel around here, but it sounds like you feel it all the time, and that but from these other sources. So I mean, it sounds like that you're warm all the time, even though it's from somewhere else. Isn't that warmth? And he looks at like genuinely a little like he's trying to puzzle it out and think that no, that's warm.
I don't know, if you're by yourself in the dark, even if you're not cold, I don't think you can be warm.
I suppose that's right. Maybe we can find some warmth, and then maybe the tree ants, if they find some warmth, they'll give us some warmth. I feel like we should all be warm, and together. I really want to make sure that we're together. My people aren't as together as they used to be, and I'm hoping that maybe we, whatever we find can fix that. And as he kind of rambles that out and he just kind of picks up pace in how he's saying it, he noticeably does not look anywhere near the Magus. And you might have noticed that he has not looked at the Magus once this entire journey. Like his eye will never even flick anywhere close to her. But he says, I think we'll find some warmth. I think we'll figure this out and figure this out for my people, right? And looks very earnestly at Caspian. Sorry to put you on the spot, but
yeah, I mean, we can figure out, we can do our best. We can do our best. We can all do our best for your people and our and to stay warm.
Yeah, I think that's enough. And then and not like not rudely, we'll turn and look back in the direction of the tree.
Justice has written like warm mist and like bottle, like circled several times.
On wrote nothing and sort of closed the book and looked at both of you two.
Just like
what have I done?
Oh.
All right, is it me?
Oh, hold on. Which one? You were making camp, right? So which of those?
Oh shoot!
Qualities did you give into
I think I had one in mind, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to give kind to Caspian, if that's okay.
Thank you. That's lovely. All right, I'm going to take A Comfort from Home by Firelight. So as night falls and Foothill winds down, and we all fall into kind of not a comfortable silence, but not an awkward silence either, just the kind of silence that grows when nobody really has anything that they feel ready to say. Caspian is going to pull out a long curved knife. This is the knife that is Caspian's delivery knife during difficult and complicated labors. Caspian has made use of this knife in many gentle and ungentle ways. And they take out a stone and a little vial of oil, and they rub the oil along the length of the blade and then use the stone to begin to sharpen it. And they do this not because the blade is dull, but because it gives them comfort. Sorry, it gives him comfort to care for something precious like this. And as he sharpens the blade, he sings a low song that doesn't have lyrics. It is the song that he usually sings to a newborn baby as he's getting mucus out of its nose and mouth so it can breathe, and as he's counting fingers and toes and tails and tentacles, and as he's taking the measure of the thing that's just come into the world. And he sings it into the blade, and the blade doesn't glimmer back the way that it's supposed to. It kind of gives a very weak and hesitant gleam, but that could just be firelight on the blade. It might not be the metal soaking up the song the way it's meant to, the way that it usually does when it's hungry or tired. But Caspian just keeps on singing to it until the song is over and sets the stone down and holds the blade in his lap because it might be nice for it to be able to see the fire for a little while longer.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Gailey. That leaves me with, well, there's Harper's Road, who you left behind, at dawn your morning ritual. I think I'll settle with, I won't settle, I'll choose at dawn your morning ritual. And I think we see the next morning, just when the sky is starting to, when the night is just dispersing, like right before dawn. Justice kind of like, we see a shot of their face, their young face, just their brows pulling together, and they roll to their side in the bedroll and just kind of, they decide to be conscious now. It's like, it's morning, time to go. And they're, I think it's eerily quiet. The tree ends have left. And the oak hills are somber. But Justice's internal clockwork is still going, and they rise and they kind of like dust themselves off and sets themselves to work and kind of goes through these motions with a sort of with a familiar practice, but also with a sense of optimism, because they're here to find new things. And once they kind of pack away their own things, get ready for the next leg of travel, it's about time that everyone else is waking up, and they kind of creep over to between Foothill and Caspian, and like very obviously not trying to hide it at all, has a peek at Caspian's sword and delivery knife and the stone, and just like tries to see what material it's been made from. And I think they eventually give in and they ask, this looks really special. Can you tell me, where did you get it from?
Is Caspian awake at this point?
I think he's like very barely awake.
So I think you're gonna get a little bit of that, like, what? Where did I get?
Yeah, where did you get this from? It looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I got it at the first delivery that I did on my own after my apprenticeship. It comes out with the amniotic fluid, and that's how you know that you're ready to operate fully independently.
I'm sorry, it came out with the amniotic fluid.
Mhm.
That's marvelous. That's magical.
People don't know nearly enough about birth. I think there's some strange stigma about the process and some superstition. People don't want to talk about the details, maybe because they think it's scary or gross, but yeah, the knife comes when it's ready.
That's so interesting. Thank you. And I think like Justice just kind of in this little crouch, like sits with their notebook next to Caspian, and says like, I'm an apprentice for the architect of Ravenhall, and I think people don't think our professions are anything alike, but I'm a builder of things, and in a strange way, I also bring things into this world. And I think Justice just shares some of their notes, and um, more than a few times, they glance at Fawn, the scholar, across the way, um, who seems to have put herself at a listening distance, at an observing distance, and they keep peering at her because she hasn't said much, or interacted with the rest of the group much. Um, and Justice kind of flitters from Caspian to like Foothill, who is, a strange and asleep, uh, but probably, Foothill, would you say that I can successfully get a few words out of you as well?
Absolutely, I would say that as this conversation is going, Foothill's eyes slowly open and it is
Yeah.
very clearly paying attention.
Yeah, I show Foothill like mists bottle like on my notes. I'm like, do you think I can take some of the warmth back?
Oh, no one has ever tried. It is, it's a lot thicker than the mists I've noticed here. So I mean, you could try, but there's not very much of it left. But there's also no one to ask or stop you. So yes.
I append my notes like, okay, not much left. Refill it. That's incredible. Anything is valuable. Thank you so much. And like I think with this flittering between them, like this, I'm just eyeing the Magus and Fawn, who have both been quiet in their own right. Um, and that's my morning routine.
Fawn doesn't quite know what manner of people she has surrounded herself with. This is a far cry from the infighting and spider's webbing and currying for favor that she knows at the academy in Astalia. Like these people just met and they seem to like each other and they are nice. So Fawn's processing, and the sound of the crunching of the leaves under their feet when they walk, when they start hitting the road. Well, because the magus just like gets up, right, and like starts going, and we're like, oh, I guess we should go. um, and just I don't know, like the like Caspian talking about like being with other people for warmth. It's like all of a sudden Fawn's just like right back there with all those messy liaisons that she like sort of just pieced out on and left in her dust. Like the the prima donna who she broke her heart, and then the maestro who she should not have had an affair with, and just like all of those strings just sort of like yanked out and like left behind with no proper closure. Um, on the singing, it's like that little bit of singing is just like for a school dedicated to music, the academy is so quiet because singing can be so dangerous and it can only be attempted under really specific circumstances. And the way that Caspian just like sang sort of like instinctually, almost like nursing a thought, is just so far from how Fawn even thinks of music, thinks of sound, thinks of singing. And she doesn't know. She's withholding judgment. She is here as a last ditch effort to salvage something from her academic career, and we'll see. And that's it for now. So we just hit 8. So I think now we're going to take a quick bio break and come back to some announcements, because who doesn't love announcements, right, Brendan?
Yeah, I'll tell a little bit more about the giveaways.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us in the Oak Hills. When we come back, we will be escorted into Barley Town by Brandon, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. All right, and we're back. Thanks for tuning in and sticking with us as we are back with continuing our Fall of Magic game. Before we do that, I want to talk about our giveaways because, as I mentioned at the start, we're here to have fun and hang out with friends and play games and tell stories. But we're also here to actually do some good, hopefully, and put some good out into the world. So on our website, bagofgiving.com, we've got a couple of pages there talking about our giveaways. The process for which is pretty straightforward. We've got a list of specific charities that we're hoping to spotlight in areas like health justice, housing justice, food insecurity, Indigenous rights. They're organizations that both myself and Mike Underwood, the other kind of co-host behind this, and many of our players have suggested. So we've kind of cultivated this list of specific charities to focus on. All we are asking for those of you out there in the internet verse is to donate to one of our selected charities. We've provided links on our website for how to do that, and show them a little bit of love and give them some support because they're doing really good work and could use all the help that they could get. And for anyone who does, you'll be entered into our giveaways because we feel like we want to encourage people to donate and thank you for donating to these organizations, and we've got a whole bunch of prizes lined up. I do want to mention our our one charity that we're trying to spotlight specifically this month, which is actually recommended to me by Dave, which is Collective Action for Safe Spaces, based out of Washington, D.C. And they're an organization, Black, trans, queer, and non-binary led, that use public education, cultural organizing, coalition building, and advocacy to build community safety. And so they're really focused on transformative justice, not only adopting strategies and tools to combat harm and violence, but also challenge beliefs and systemic issues that contribute to violence in communities. They're a phenomenal organization by the sounds of it, doing really, really good work. And so we're specifically spotlighting them for this month. But they're one of many charities that we're hopefully encouraging people to donate to. And if you do choose to donate, all you have to do is take a screenshot of your proof of donation, email it to us. All the instructions are on our website, and you will be entered into a giveaway for multiple cool things, one of which I believe Dave has with him right at the moment. Look at that. Look at those. Look at those books. So if you don't recognize what those are, shame on you. No. So Dave is holding the complete 2021 set of novellas from Neon Hemlock Press, which are gorgeous and absolutely wonderful. And Dave has very generously donated a full set. So yeah, we've got by Primi Muhammad. I don't have all the titles memorized. So we have And What Can We Offer You Tonight by Primi Muhammad.
And the first title is a script, which you need to read as my camera.
Thank you, Dave. And then The Secret Skin by Wendy N. Wagner. What else we got? And This Is How to Stay Alive by, I can't read. Stop moving it around. By Shingai Najiri Kagunda. And last but certainly not least, where is it? There's The Necessity of Stars by E. Catherine Tobler. So phenomenal set of novellas. If you haven't read Neon Hemlock stuff, and I'm going to embarrass Dave, seriously, the work that press is putting out is phenomenal. And so seriously, Dave, thank you for donating these books. So they're up for giveaway to anyone who donates, as well as I got to shout out Heart of the Deernicorn, again, publishers of Fall of Magic, because they are offering not one, not two, but 3 separate digital codes for Songs from the Axe and Fiddle, which is their expansion for Fall of Magic. So cool of them to offer this. And so if you enter our giveaway, you can win one of those. So you don't need to enter right now during the stream because we're asking people to donate. We want to give people time. But if you can, we'll be running that specific giveaway for the next couple of weeks. And so hopefully you can donate and maybe win and get some cool stuff. So yeah, that's the details for that. And there's commands and Twitch related stuff that I don't understand to get links and stuff up for that our tech crew are running. So yeah. And I will turn it back over to, to me, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can turn it to me, but I'm going to give it right back to you because you need to lead the Magus
Right. I've got
into Barleytown while
Okay,
telling us about the hospitality or lack thereof of the Barley Lord.
Hospitality of the Barley Lord. Okay, and I actually did on our break. I scribbled down a couple of ideas, so I can do this. Yeah, so it takes us, I think, a couple of days to reach Barleytown. During which there's a little bit of scattered conversation, I think, between Caspian and Fawn and Foothill, possibly, or sorry, from Caspian and Foothill and Justice, possibly from Fawn. Maybe just we managed to get just a few tiny little words out of her. But the Magus, as before, is setting us at a serious clip. She gets up and she moves and she expects us to follow, and she's been the one who is setting the time when we make camp. And after that first night, each morning we start a little bit earlier, and each night we end a little bit later. There's a slight sense of urgency to the Magus's steps that she has not commented on, and I doubt anyone else has commented on, but it's there, and she doesn't show any she's still the same kind of stern, tense sort of individual she's been the whole time, but we can see the urgency in that little subtle time scale of how we're traveling. And so we eventually make it to Barleytown, and Barleytown, I think, is very striking at a distance for two reasons. One, as we mount this low hill, looking out over the town, we immediately see to the left just these rolling fields, just that are, I don't understand what crops get harvested in fall. We'll say there's fields.
Perhaps barley, my lord. Perhaps barley.
Perhaps. So, but it's a striking sight, not necessarily because of the time of year, but because of the size. Just these sprawling fields that possibly explain why Barleytown itself looks very different than Ravenhall. It's kind of this cozy looking town of stone buildings and cobblestone streets, bright kind of orangey brown tiled roofs, and looks, I wouldn't call it prosperous, but I would call it stable, in a way that Ravenhall certainly has not been for some time. This is a town that, despite everything that's going on in the wider world around us, doing okay. And I think as we kind of continue down the road, down this town and approach Barleytown, we see even more evidence of that from this entourage that is waiting for us at the front of the town. People dressed, not like, we're not talking like cutting edge urban fashion, but dressed in their best, and these kind of wide ranges of colored cotton clothing, but a dozen or so people, varying ages and appearances, that are there specifically to welcome the Magus. And right at the center is the Barley Lord himself, and the Barley Lord is this shorter than average individual. I'm going to say like bright white hair, probably prematurely white hair, slightly receding, with this just wide jovial expression on their face, wearing this bright navy blue coat that is unlike anything that anyone else is wearing, and so that they really stand out at the front of this crowd, and they're beaming this smile. I'm picturing Leslie Jordan for some reason, I don't know why, the comedian, so this bright coat and this bright beaming smile, and kind of arms gestured towards the Magus as we approach. And as the rest of us slow down, expecting to meet these people, the Magus does not. The Magus keeps walking, and walks literally right towards this group of people. And you can see there's hesitation on their faces, like is she gonna shake the Barley Lord's hand? Is there something like what are we supposed to do here? But the Magus keeps moving, and at the last moment, these pillars of the community, whoever these people are, realize, no, she's not going to stop. And they just manage to get out of the way as she continues to move. The Barley Lord staggers to the left, and the Magus doesn't even look at him, and just keeps walking past them. And there's this moment of confusion on the Barley Lord's face, and they just kind of turn and look at the Magus as she's walking past and go, I'm sorry, we were going, is everything all right? And the Magus, that's the moment when she stops, and she's like 3 feet past them at this, or 3 meters past them at this point. And she stops and she turns and she looks the Barley Lord dead in the eye and says, I'm not here for your hospitality. And she keeps moving and leaves us to decide what to do next. End scene. I believe I passed it to Gailey at that point. Sorry.
Oh, that's heavy. The 3 of us just standing there like
stunned.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take my coin to Swine Hill, a battle fought long ago. But my coin being at Swine Hill doesn't mean that we are leaving this scene necessarily. As we stand looking at the people gathered there who are indeed the pillars of the community, Caspian has been hood way low this whole time because Caspian is from Barleytown, was the midwife of Barleytown, has seen the insides of a lot of these people, helped some of them come into the world, and he is not looking for the conversations that he suspects will happen as a result of him being here. But unfortunately, as we all stand there stunned, trying to figure out what to do, Caspian slips and lifts his head up a little too high. And one of the people in the crowd, who is wearing a long green dress and has a really full bushy black beard and deep brown eyes, says, Caspian? And Caspian's entire body withers. And Caspian says, yeah, hi, Dad. This is Caspian's father, Otho, the swineherd. Caspian and Otho do not embrace. They do not look at each other with particular love. They look at each other with the dread that can only come from 2 people who know that something has been left unfinished between them. Caspian looks at his father and sees an unyielding traditionalist who doesn't respect dreams or ambition. Also looks at Caspian and sees a failure of a son who left behind the family farm that has been in Caspian's family for generations. Caspian's father is a swineherd. Caspian's grandfather was a swineherd. Caspian's great-grandfather was a swineherd. They have all been the swineherds of Barleytown. And Caspian decided to go be a midwife of all things, delivering anything but pigs from sows. And on Swine Hill, the family estate, where their extremely lucrative, successful pig farm is located, Caspian and Otho fought a battle that has yet to be finished. Otho accused Caspian of being inconstant and irresponsible. Caspian accused Otho of being unyielding and cruel. Caspian said, I want to bring life into this world. Otho said, why don't you want to nourish the life that already exists? And then Caspian left. And Barleytown's not a huge city. They couldn't avoid each other, but they haven't spoken since. And then Caspian left Barleytown and left behind midwifery and what was it all worth? Now Caspian is back among this crew of people who are following a dying leader. What's he going to say to his father? Although looks at Caspian for a long moment, waiting for the inevitable apology or groveling or begging to be allowed to come home. But Caspian just looks out at the fields, and after a moment Otho turns and leaves, and they never spoke to each other. In the time when Caspian was here before, why should they speak to each other now? And I think that throws it to Justice.
Thanks, Gailey. I think I would like to choose farmer's market. What you'd need for the journey. And we go from this solemn scene when the three of us are just standing before the pillars of the community, and none of us have anything to say. We kind of just cut from that to a busy crowd where I think we see familiar, like the same kind of beautiful colored cottons flying in the air, like flags and banners and signs of Barleytown's marketplace. And could I ask Fawn to be with me in the scene? I think the Magus has sent the two of us to gather supplies in that very short way of hers. She just kind of said, "We need more things. Go." Sure. Yeah. And I think maybe Justice is dawdling a little bit, just because there are so many new things here, and there's so many new sights, and Barleytown looks fresh and doesn't look like it's crumbling like Ravenhall is, so there must be something here. Maybe it's because they're located further inland and they're sheltered by the mountains, but if there's just something that I can figure out and take home with me, maybe that's something I can focus on. And Fawn, how is Fawn in the market?
Fawn is staring at Justice's wide-eyed appreciation and wondering if she's ever been that open-minded to the things in the world.
How old does Fawn appear? Like
a very self-possessed mid-20s.
Oh, so we're actually the same age, but we look completely different. Yeah.
Well, I'm from the city. I don't even know where you're from. This isn't a market. This is a jumped up side street stall. I don't like, how are we even supposed to get things for the road here?
That's a really...
Are those sardines?
Do you not like sardines?
But fresh sardines, not whatever this is. We're not we're so far from the ocean. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Maybe that can be one of our things that we find in this trip. Something that you'll find agreeable to have on our trips, because we can't have you going hungry. It's going to be a long road ahead.
And Fawn sort of like, I'm sort of like, oh, I'm really obvious that I don't like these things, apparently, because apparently nothing I've found has been agreeable, and you know it. You just called me out. And there's like a oh.
I see your kind of crestfallen. Like, I'm like, oh no, it's fine. I mean, like, my mentor Lenny also like hates seafood, which doesn't help because we're right next to the sea. So, well,
this is more of like an inlet, and the real sea is it's fine. Sure, this is the sea. Yeah, it's the sea. Yeah. This is fine. I think that's a grouper. We can get grouper, I guess.
Yeah. Fawn.
Grouper. Oh.
I noticed you taking notes too. Do you want to compare notes?
Those are more just mental reminders to myself.
Personal stuff, that's totally okay. Yeah, that's totally fine. I just, yeah, I guess I've just been, yeah, do you know what I do back home?
And there's this moment where Fawn is like, this is, I should ask what they do. I should ask. You work for the...
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I see. Your hand sign was like a little building, and that's exactly what I do. Yes, yes, exactly. Yes. That's it.
Sorry, you called me out. Yeah, that's... Yeah, you're like on the staff.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, we're not exactly... Well, I think that's one way of saying it. Yeah, that's what we are. And you may have even seen my mentor Lenny around the place. She's an older woman. She's kind of the architect of Ravenhall.
Oh, with the arms. Yeah, I saw Lenny.
With the arms, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So that's just what notes I'm taking. I'm taking notes on the architecture of this place, and
I guess I was taking notes on the architecture of those arms, now that you mention it.
Oh my goodness.
Which...
They really are something. And I think I just try to convince Fawn, or at least if she's not going to show me her notes, I'm going to show her mine anyway, just like, look at this. What do you think about this?
There's so many pages.
I've just been writing nonstop. It's really fun.
Yeah, your hands are disgusting.
What?
That's a lot of ink.
Oh. Is that disgusting to you?
No.
No?
No, it's not.
All right.
It just shows that... No, it's not.
Okay. I think Justice is kind of just like a... well, let's try to find some supplies.
Right, for the... Yeah.
Rations, yeah.
Rations. Yes.
Rations.
For the road.
Some like dried fruits, maybe?
Fruits? Okay. And, did you bring the part? No, I can pay for this. This is fine. And
if you could, that would be so kind.
Yeah, and then I take like an embarrassing large amount of money out of my pocket and have to like... It's going to be like a scene when I
oh my God.
pay for things.
I think Justice is very like, oh, I better like stand in front of her so that we don't like people don't see us flashing our money around.
No, it's just I didn't have a chance to go to the exchequer before I left.
Oh,
I know
it's
this
okay.
is ridiculous. It's all I have, or they're not gonna rob me. It's fine. It's fine.
Do you know how to protect yourself? If we do...
Do I look like a rube? Did you just call me a rube? Did you just call me a rube?
No. I just don't know anything about that. I just don't know anything about that kind of things.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know self-defense?
Who would try something here?
Have you been here before?
I mean, no.
I just, I get worried. It's kind of my first time out here.
Yeah, we can tell.
Oh.
But it's fine. Your eyes are very wide.
My eyes are very wide. My mother always said that about me. I'm glad you agree, because then I can tell her that someone out there thinks just the same thing. What's your favorite food from home? Maybe we can bring that.
Oh. Have you heard of, it's like It's like a little. It's called an excelsior. It's a little mushroom inside of a bigger mushroom that has been constructed like a jelly mushroom replica. But it's like a chutney jelly, and then that's inside of what's that? I don't. Is a bird. It's only from the Northeast. I don't know actually the local word for it, but the sticks that it uses for its nest. That's part of the garnish, and that's very important for the dish.
Whoa. That's
Vegetarian.
Vegetarian.
Unless you think that using sticks that the birds made to their nests makes it not vegetarian, but I think that's fine because you're not eating the actual bird, so it's fine.
Wow. I think like as Thorn was talking, just kind of just like starts drawing like a mushroom and then a mushroom outside of the mushroom and like sticks, and it's like, does it look anything like this? And just
but like next to like a plate of petit fours.
Oh, petit fours. Okay, got it.
Yeah. We should get back. This is sorry. This and also there's a very large line behind us.
Oh yeah, you're so right. But maybe look, there's a mushroom stand of like foraged fresh mushrooms. I think we can make something close to what
we could, but those ones look like dirt. Let's just go.
Okay, let's go. But let's, Fawn, I would love to find something here that makes you feel more at home.
You're so nice.
Thank you.
Very, very nice. That's really kind. That's really kind of you. We can get a mushroom.
Okay.
Dirt mushrooms are in season. We'll figure it out.
That sounds good. Okay. And I think that is my scene. So the turn order, is it now?
Oh, I think it's me now.
Oh, it's your, sorry. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Dave.
I feel like I walk back with you to the Magus, and I'm like carrying satchels, and there was a minor scene involving the money. But it's fine. We can figure it out. And like, look at me. No one's gonna fight me. It's fine. Mostly because of my attitude problem, not because of any particular martial ability. Honestly, all you people being so nice is really throwing me off my game. Like, I'm used to interactions that are like currency, and you're nice to someone because like you're gonna owe them a favor later. And there's just such a astonishing, I was gonna say astounding or astonishing lack of guile in like all of these interactions. And it's continually like pushing me towards like the archness that might be helpful in like a more manipulative environment is like just like making me look like a tool. And then I just like lean into it, and it's like I don't mind myself when I'm distracted by all of the machinery kind of worrying of like all the other people around me, but like I'm feeling a little bit gross right now. So I like head off once you're like with the horses, and like I don't even know my horse's name. You all know your horse's names. It's too much. And I'm just like, maybe I can find those mushrooms somewhere, but like it won't be at that like rinky dink market. It's gonna be at Barley Manor. So it's just, I have a letter of credit. I haven't pulled upon it for a while, but like I start heading towards the manor and fully intending to swindle some rich people's larder and just see if I can get y'all something that doesn't taste like the underside of a hoof. But I hear singing like on the road there. It's just a farmhouse. It's like this little, I don't even know what those animals are. Are they goats? They have long necks. They have lots of fur. The necks are much too long. I don't know what they are, but there's a woman there, and all the talk of arms and thinking about the students back at the academy, like one thing leads to another, and I wake up the next day in the farmer's bed. And it's fine. It's perfectly lovely. But I think I've lost complete track of time. And I have a feeling the Magus is left without me. But I don't know. It's like it's like a currency that I can share that doesn't have to do with like compliments or like being a genuine person or like caring about other people. It's just like an immediate thing. It's like it's like easier than going to the market. It's just two people giving each other what they need, and that's that. And I still don't really like how it makes me feel afterward, and that's a new feeling, but that's enough for now. Sorry, I forgot to drag my little piece over there. And I didn't end up with any mushrooms. Sorry.
Oh, Dave, did you choose Barley Manor?
No, it was a psych out. I went with Matilda's farm.
Yeah.
Ah,
was a
lovely.
fake
Okay,
out.
Cool. It was fake out. Yeah. Cool. Got it.
And there's no mushrooms. Oh man. Okay, I gotta decide. Okay, where is Foothill going? Where's Foothill going? I should have been thinking about this. Okay, I feel like so what Foothill has seen, I think after we see the confrontation between the Magus and the Barley Lord and everybody kind of splitting off, Foothill being given no direction from the Magus is adrift in this city that is unlike anything he's ever seen before. The buildings are very low compared to the trees in the Mistwood, and it kind of throws him off. And so he spends a little bit of time wandering and thinking about this journey that we're on, and spends a lot of time getting comfortable with the city and the town, but then realizes very quickly that the more he wanders the town, the more alone he starts to feel again. It feels very familiar, very similar to when he was in the Great Hall. And so clutching one of the totally untarnished forks that he definitely nicked from the Great Hall before he left, just to make sure that it gets cared for, he eventually makes his way to where the group is staying. Sees Justice and sees Caspian, knows the Magus is there, even though he doesn't look anywhere in her direction, but doesn't see Fawn anywhere, and thinks, okay, well, it's I'm sure Fawn will be back at some point, and then just like sits, not right in front of the door, but sits and waits. And waits. Waits. And then it's 2 a.m, and everyone else has gone to bed, and Foothill thinks, okay, and actually says okay out loud a couple of times, and then he sets off back into the town, because back in the Mistwood, not really, I mean, I think it would have been his appointed duty, until it was no longer necessary, was to keep an eye on things and keep an eye on people, and he's decided that he can do that again here, and so he goes looking for Fawn, having no idea where Fawn might be. And so it's 2 a.m. in Barleytown, and I get the impression that Barleytown doesn't have much of a nightlife, so it's pretty quiet. So he's this giant wandering through town looking for someone who he's not entirely convinced he knows what they would look like in the dark, but he's going to try. And yeah, exactly. It's like if I say Fawn's name enough, maybe she'll materialize. So he tries that a few times and that doesn't work. And then he starts thinking about, like, you know, all the different, like, he thinks of them as tricks, all these different tricks that he used to use to find things in the Mistwood. And most of them stopped working along, you know, he thinks a long time ago, but, you know, there were things that, you know, these little ways of finding people and finding things it doesn't work as well as it used to. And so as he's wandering, he passes by kind of probably the only establishment that is giving off any noise at this time of night, which is the Inn of the Axe and Fiddle. It is, you know, it's pretty late, but there's still a few people in there. And, you know, though Foothill doesn't realize this, you know, they had planned this, you know, elaborate celebration because the Magus is in town, not realizing that the Magus has no interest whatsoever in any of that. But they're like, oh, I'm sure if we just keep the party going, she'll show up eventually. And she hasn't, but Foothill does. And as Foothill is passing by the inn, he hears a song. And it's not quite a song that he recognizes, but it's familiar enough to make him stop in his tracks and momentarily forget that he's looking for Fawn. It's up tempo from what he remembers. It's the voice is in a higher pitch than it should be, based on what he remembers. But the tune is familiar, and it's a tune from the Mistwood, or like an approximation of a tune from the Mistwood. And he just kind of stands there and listens as he hears this, you know, half-drunken musician pulling off a pretty good approximation of a giant song. And it's the first time he's heard it in, much like, you know, when his tricks used to work, a very long time. And he looks at the door for the inn, and he's like, I don't know if I can fit through that door, but maybe I can sit and just listen. And then there's some barrels beside the door, so he very carefully sits down on one of them, maybe 3 of the barrels, just to be on the safe side. And just, you know, just sits and, you know, presses his back against the door and listens. And as the music kind of washes over him, he remembers what it's like to be around his people again, which he hasn't felt in a very long time. And he thinks about, you know, the people from the Mistwood who aren't around anymore, and how they used to sometimes, you know, drift off, and you know, they would always come back, and then they would drift off, and they would always come back, and then eventually they didn't. And there's a moment where as the song is trailing off, where that makes Foothill a little melancholy. But then he thinks to himself, no, this time it's going to be different. This time she'll come back. Then he gets, and then as the song fades, he gets up, makes his way back to where we're staying with the Magus, and eventually finds his way to sleep.
How long has Foothill been away from the Mistwood?
I'm gonna say it feels longer than it has been. Let's say less than 10 years. He's not 100% sure because he wasn't really keeping track of the years, but it feels like longer, but less than 10 years. Yeah, but there was a time before that, I think, where the Mistwood was mostly empty, and he was kind of one of the last ones there, and then eventually the last one there.
Which is a germane question, because Gailey, you're now up for telling us whether
Yes.
the Magus leads us to the Mistwood, or if she leads us to the Stormguard Mountains.
Can I confer with Foothill about this before I decide?
Absolutely. I didn't realize the Mistwood was coming up next. That's awesome. Or as an option. I'm going to do.
Secondary, Brandon, I'm pinging you in the chat.
Oh.
Do you think the Magus would talk to Foothill, the giant from Mistwood, about this, or Is she she's in charge? She doesn't care what you think, even if you're from Mistwood.
Is Foothill even? I mean, Foothill hasn't even looked at the mages, right? So there's some
No.
energy
Hasn't
there
looked at it.
still.
There's some energy.
Yeah.
There's vibes. The vibes in this group are immense.
Immense. 6 out of 10.
Especially Foothills vibes. Giant.
Yes.
I'm responding to the chat as quickly as I can.
Yeah, no worries. I did not say in the chat as we were hearing about the song, which sounds a little bit different from what you're used to hearing, but I thought it in my head, maybe it's Taylor's version. She's re-recording all kinds of stuff right now.
Gailey.
Okay.
I love it.
You.
Yeah, I don't know if that helps or not, Gailey, but I responded in the chat.
Yeah, no, that helps. Okay, all right, here we go. So I'm moving the mages. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we are moving the mages to Mistwood. How the road changes. The mages sets off before dawn, headed toward Mistwood, walking as fast as she can. And the road between Barley Manor and Mistwood is very well tended. I mean, it's going out of a well-established community that has had frequent cause to go to this area that's excellent for foraging and hunting. And, you know, it's a thoroughfare between Barleytown and other places. It's a well-maintained road, but to the mages, it seems increasingly difficult to traverse. Her legs still feel strong beneath her, but even flat stretches of road feel like she's walking up a steep flight of stairs. Her cloak feels a little heavier all the time. And she knows that part of this is because she's not sleeping and definitely not eating enough, but she can't sleep anymore. She hasn't been able to sleep for some time. And she can only eat a little bit. She pretends to be eating more than she actually is and feeds quite a lot of hidden scraps of food to Foothill's horse. She's so tired. And she's not afraid, but she knows that she can't slow down yet, because if she slows down a little, she'll slow down a lot. And if she slows down a lot, she won't be able to complete what she set out to do. And all of these people with her, whether they know it or not, are depending on her in their own ways. They need this journey too. And if she stops too long to look at the fields outside of Barleytown or the trees in Mistwood, everything will fall to pieces. She's walked this road so many times, and the road feels like it's changed, but she knows that it's her that's changed and the world that's changed. And the road has stayed the same and will stay the same long after the changes that are coming. So she leads the way. And as the sun comes up, she doesn't look up at the sky. She doesn't have any wistful thoughts about sunrises and sunsets, because those aren't of use to her now. And she leads these strange, foolish children into the Mistwood. Take it away, Irene.
Thank you. I think I'm going to choose a crossing who holds us back. And do we, Gailey, do you think we're still on our steeds, like all 4 of us are still on our midnight black steeds, or are we holding them or leading them?
I mean, I think that Foothill is probably
Still
probably
this
doing
whole time.
curls.
Well, Aspen
think-
needs to see where we're going, so
I think Caspian is on foot because the Magus is on foot. and Caspian just wants to do the right thing. Is Fawn with us? Fawn, are you with us?
I arrive like at a fast horse word.
Gallop.
Thank you. After y'all are like already like the landscape is already changing from Barley Manor to the Mistwood, but as the mist starts to do its thing, I show up red-faced and quick ignore you all and go to the side of the magus as soon as I can.
Nice. Love it.
Fantastic. A crossing. Okay. I think I see Fawn show up, and I kind of like give her a little wave, like, oh, glad you're here. Like, I didn't think you were abandoning us, but yeah, don't worry, it's okay. And I think Fawn probably like to match our pace, like probably dismounts and follow the rest of us who are walking and on foot. And we're approaching a crossing, and the magus just keeps charging ahead, and the mist gets more dense, and I think it's even Justice stretches out their hand, and it's hard to see their fingertips. So they call out, they say, Magus, can you wait for a second? And there's just silence, and all Justice can hear is footsteps moving further and further away, and Justice says again, Magus, where we can't see where you are. Can you come back? And again they hear nothing, and they take a deep breath and they say, Magus, we can't continue if we don't know where we're going. Would anyone like to play the magus?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Yeah. So I think for the first time in this whole journey, you hear Justice sound very stern, and it kind of like they sound a little nervous too, because they don't like raising their voice. And I think just to keep track of everyone, Foothill and Caspian, you even feel Justice's hand just on you, just grabbing hold of maybe not your actual hand or arm, but something that maybe Caspian, the knife that's in your sheath, maybe I just have a hand on that leather satchel, or Foothill, like your item of clothing, I just hold on to the people who I'm near, and I say, Magus, this is unacceptable.
Okay, just so I know for placement of people, Fawn, would you still have been trying to keep pace with the magus?
Yeah, I mean, I would just be throwing myself into the mist.
Okay. Okay, so then I would say what would the magus say? Yeah, so Justice, you hear from ahead of you, you hear the footsteps slow ever so slightly, and you hear the magus' voice say, one of you can keep up.
I think I tighten my hold onto Foothill and Caspian, and I look down a little bit and I say, then why are the other ones, why are we here then? We're here to help you, aren't we?
And you hear a voice echo back to you. You're here because you need to be. But you need to keep up.
It's easier if you close your eyes, Justice.
Close my eyes, but then I can't. And they kind of look up and realize they can't see anything anyway.
Nice.
and I think they close their eyes and they say, "Caspian, are you still there?"
Caspian reaches out and lays a hand on top of Justice's hand where it's resting on the sword hilt, and kind of like grabs the hand and just gives it a squeeze.
Mm-hmm. And I say, "Foothill, are you still there?"
I don't. You can just see the outline of Foothill beside you, as he does something that he's never really had to do before, but he lowers himself onto one knee so he's closer to eye level with you, and does the same thing, and just like doesn't, it just brushes your shoulder with his giant hand, so you know that he's still there.
And from in front of you, I don't actually know how to make this recipe, but I'm going to pretend that I do, and I just start describing how someone who's never cooked a meal in their life would make a mushroom inside a mushroom inside a nest from tiny quails.
Nice.
So good.
So that you can hear my voice from ahead of you in the mist.
Oh, I love that.
It goes on a plate, I guess.
It goes on a plate. Justice is nodding. That sounds about right. That's really. And takes deep breaths, and I think their steps become surer, even as their eyes are closed. And that's my scene.
Very cool.
That's me after. And for logistics purposes, so hunting grounds actually belongs to the one above it, just so we know. We just have a tiny handful of choices here. So as much as I'm being stoic in that moment for Justice, it's really just because they're very pathetic and someone needs to take care of them, and I'm happy to do so. They really need like 6 people to take care of them, I've decided. I am not appropriate to be any of those people, but I'm just doing the best I can with what we have and trying to be a little useful. But also being helpful or trying to be helpful is also distracting me from what I'm seeing, because I haven't closed my eyes. And the mist is not just featureless, it's also changing and moving, and maybe it's my eyes playing tricks on me, or maybe it's something there. And if I don't talk, I'm hearing things too, and I can't see people's mouths, and I don't know if I can't see your mouths, I don't know if it's you saying it or me saying it or me saying it in my head, or if it's fake. And this, eventually I can't talk anymore. I can't tell you about mushrooms, and you seem fine, and there's no reason to speak, and it's just me. And that's when I'm really, and the magus doesn't say shit. So it's just me and what's in my head. And I don't know if this is really my prima donna, or I don't know if this is really my maestro. I don't know if this is really me. I don't know if each of you want to be one of my haunted lovers from the past and whisper something to me. You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got a prima donna, we've got a maestro.
Yeah.
And
else? Let's just say another prima donna. I've been going through them.
Prima donna and a maestro.
One's a mezzo soprano and one's a tenor.
I'll take that one. I'll take the mezzo soprano. I know that. I know the inside of that personality type very well.
You know that mindset.
Yeah. Unfortunately for everyone who knows me, yeah.
What voices do I hear in the mist, y'all?
Well, you hear one that carries the entire melody of the song, and frankly carries the entire choir, and people should appreciate it more. Saying, "You never deserved me." you couldn't ever have understood the kind of work I was doing. But I tried to let you in anyway. And what did you do? You let me down.
There's things I'd say, and I'm going to say none of them because I can't let any of these people that I'm traveling with know about my demons.
I think the maestro it doesn't say anything with words. The maestro, you can feel their touch directing you with every step that you take through these mists. And it's this, I don't know if strange is the right word for it, but it's this combination of comfortably familiar but also off-putting, because my impression of Fawn is that Fawn likes to be in control, and that was the part that about the maestro that was off-putting.
Well, and I'm not one of your singers, so there's no reason for you to be telling me what to do.
So
you just do it because it's all you know how.
And you can imagine again, not with words, but you can imagine the maestro kind of like responding with just the slightest poke at one of your joints, just to let you know they understand how that sounds, and then they fade a little bit.
Prima Donna is going to just kind of start hissing in your ear. Just this long litany of all the little things that you did that annoyed her, weren't good enough for her. She could have done better, weren't up to her standard.
Irene, do you want to be myself? My own voice in my ear?
Oh, that's hard. Ooh. What would Fawn say to herself? I think something like, why are you even here? Why are you here? Just go back. It's never too late to turn back to something familiar and something that's comfortable.
Luckily for myself, I have no idea which direction is anywhere, and I'm just following the magus' footsteps because otherwise that might resonate more than I'd like it to. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Foothill is back in familiar territory, but also unfamiliar territory at the same time. Oh man, I can't resist. I gotta go for foraging just because the numbers are there. So do we roll, Dave, for the peril? Do we roll the dice? Rotate the dice first. And so this was before the stream.
Yeah, so drag the die down so that it's near whatever Brandon Prime has the camera on.
Oh yeah, which I imagine is, I'll put it here, and then if Brandon Prime can let me know in the chat if that's if that is off.
And if you right click it, it'll roll, although to all observers it will just look like it's cursed and spinning.
Don't worry, it's fine. I'm clicking roll, not rotate. We established this.
See, it's question marks when that happens.
Number. It's literally the same number. Okay. So that is, so that gives me the, does it give me the lesson you teach, the bounty we share? Does it give me both?
Yeah, your lesson is from the bounty we share.
Okay. The bounty we share. Interesting. Okay, I think as we keep moving through the mist, I think if we keep moving through the mist, Foothill, every once in a while, like after this silence has stretched on and he's heard Fawn occasionally speaking into the mist, which is a thing that he didn't think anybody other than his people could do. or would ever be able to do. You know, the silence out of that stretches on, and Foothill starts to describe things that he knows are out there in that are out there like beyond anybody seeing. And the way that he describes them doesn't necessarily like mean much to any of you. It's kind of like the way that like someone gives you directions and says, well, you go past where Pat used to live, and then you know, like 2 blocks down is the place where there used to be the stump, but there's not the stump anymore. It's like that sort of description. And so I don't know how much that helps any of you get a clear sense of your surroundings, but the more Foothill describes it, the more energetic he sounds and the more confident he sounds. It's the first time in this whole journey that he sounded at all like that he sounded certain about anything, because this is the space that he knows, even though he hasn't been here in quite some time. But the more that he talks, even he realizes that he's speaking, and the pace of his voice is picking up, because he doesn't want to acknowledge out loud what's not here anymore. And he's mentioned it obviously a few times already, but being in the space, he doesn't really want to call attention to it. So he just focuses on the space and the things that are here, and on the mist itself. And he keeps suggesting, oh, just, you know, put your hand up, and as you walk, you can feel your fingers move through it, right? Like almost like you're holding a blanket. And then he starts asking it, can you feel the warmth? Like, Caspian, can you feel the warmth like we were talking about? Can you feel, like, is it warm for you?
Caspian is just open mouth sobbing.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't. We can turn back? Do you want Aspen? You can.
Caspian, absolute disaster, just grabs Foothill around one leg and like buries face in what I assume is calf. I don't know. I can't get a sense of skill, but you know.
Yeah.
And is just like, I can feel it.
Oh man. And so, yeah, so you like, there's a moment where Foothill, like, there's the barest moment of hesitation, and then you feel again this mitt of a palm, like ever so delicately, you know, patting your back, just being, and he starts to whisper something, and it's not a language you understand. It's a language of his people, but it carries with it even more of that warmth, but with a comfort that maybe was missing from the mist itself. And then the lad, and as he trails off, he switches back to, you know, a common tongue that we all speak, and says, you know, this is yours now too. It's okay.
It's no words. It's no words. It's just.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, the lesson from that, I think, for Foothill is that, you know, what he thought, you know, with the Mistwood, this place that didn't have as much life in it as it used to, as he thinks it should, can still have an effect on people. And so he feels, so he like, there's a little bit of a change in him, I think, from that.
I think Justice gets like still holding on to their friends, very quickly takes out a handkerchief and just like with the eyes closed still presses it into Caspian's
Nice.
hand.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's me. That's my scene.
It's good.
That's good.
Okay.
I love this game.
Okay.
I love this team.
Yeah, holy crap.
All right, I'm gonna take By Moonlight, A Memory of Home. And I'm gonna need a buddy for this one.
I can be a buddy.
Okay, Justice, I need you to be my buddy.
Yeah.
All right, so it's getting darker. Even though the mist is thick, it's obvious that it's getting darker. And as night falls, a full moon that sends beautiful silver beams down into the mist. And the mist glows bright with the refracted moonlight, the same way that you can make a lantern out of a gallon of water with a drop of bleach in it and a flashlight. And so it's bright but still impossible to see. And Caspian has his eyes closed, both because Fawn said that would make this easier, and because of the brightness, and because they're kind of swollen shut from crying.
Oh, poor thing.
Because Caspian can feel a warmth that he hasn't felt since he was a little kid, and shared a bed with his twin brother, Felix, who he hasn't seen since the accident. And Caspian hasn't felt warm since that time because Felix has been gone. And Caspian couldn't stay at the pig farm because Felix was everywhere. Caspian turned, and seeing the places where Felix wasn't was too painful. But now, in the mist, Caspian is seeing and hearing Felix everywhere, and is realizing that this is the warmth that he's been missing. I would like to know what Caspian and Felix have to say to each other.
I think Felix is telling anecdotes from when they were children, and he starts by saying, like, do you remember that game that we made up that we would, like, you know, we would be climbing all over the farm, and each location had a point, like the rooftop was 5 points because it was so tall, and the tree behind the mill would be like 3 points. It still took you some time, and we just set off, and by lunchtime see how many points that we've accumulated, and that would be the game. Wasn't that fun?
Yeah, I think just from the last fortnight of walking, I've got more points than you ever got, though.
That's the pits. Fuck. Damn it.
You're not allowed to say that.
Oh.
You're gonna get
What,
in so
are you gonna
much
tell
trouble.
on me? Only if you snitch.
I won't snitch if you come with me on the rest of the journey. And Caspian didn't mean to mean it, but then he did.
I think Caspian, you go from hearing this disembodied voice to feeling a more solid presence next to you, even though you can't see Felix, but you know the shape of his hand. And his hand hasn't grown since he was a child, but yours has. And it's now big enough to envelop all of his. And he gives you a little squeeze, and he says, "But you've walked so far without me already."
And his hand is so small, and I've held so many small hands that I know I can't get the warmth that I used to have from him again. And I know that I can't take care of him because I can barely take care of the magus, who's a grown-up. I'm gonna let go of Justice for just a minute and kind of crouch down, even though I can't see the small hand. And I'm gonna say, how much farther do I have to walk without you?
I think you feel his presence just when you crouch down, your face is about where this child's chest is, and he just gives you a hug like that, and he says, "Until you feel warm again."
And right about then, I think, is when Foothill says, "Do you feel the warmth?"
Yeah.
And Felix lets go. And Caspian can still feel the warmth of the mist, but not the warmth of the person who used to be his best friend. And so he turns to someone who might be a new best friend. And gives Foothill a hug, because Foothill understands how warm this place can be. And that's me.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for being Felix.
Thank you for this story. Oh, thank you for Caspian. And now it is my turn to move the Magus forward. And we are going to the Hole of the Woods. Hospitality of the Grey Ranges. All right. I think, strangely, through our journey into the Mistwood, we just keep walking for such a long time, and the woods don't like get sparser as they would as we approach a clearing. And instead, suddenly, the mages who has been feeling the road out in front of us, just her hand touches a structure, and she stops and she calls out to everyone, "Stop!" And she feels her way around the building, and she gives 3 sharp knocks on the Hole of the Woods. And on her 3rd knock, the door swings open, just creaks open by itself. And she frowns, because she, even though she didn't accept the hospitality of the Barley Lord and the pillars of the community, she was expecting the Grey Ranges. But do you know the feeling you get when you're in a house and it feels like the family there had just left, like there's still a drink on the table that's misting, and like things are in a little bit of a disarray because someone just grabbed their stuff and left. It's kind of, it has that energy. And for the first time in this journey, she slows down a little bit, and she's a little cautious, and she steps in, and the rest of the group has caught up with her. And I think you'll see her caution. And she has her hand on a table that's no dust has accumulated in this great hole. It looks inhabited. It looks like someone has lived here, but there's just no one here. And I think the Magus says, we should find the Grey Ranges. I think it's something's wrong if they're not here. They should be here. And the Major starts going up, ascending the stairs, and just still very cautiously looking around. She feels like an uninvited guest. Uninvited? She hasn't been told by the stewards of this hole where to sit, where to walk. Yeah.
I feel like it's me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I feel like that unsettled feeling that the Magus has. It's not that it's like. It just takes away whatever like thin confidence that I've been sort of holding on to. Like I literally just followed her voice or the sound of her feet like through this um inexplicable, it's not darkness, right? But it feels like it. Whatever, I can't think of the right word. And now we're here, and now she doesn't know if she's welcome here, or we're welcome here. If this is like whatever that like rock hard confidence had been, it's like the opposite of it is like a wound, and like I feel it. Like Fawn feels it. Everyone must feel it. Maybe Foothill doesn't because he refuses to look at her, but like everyone else should feel it. And like when she like doesn't settle down and doesn't leave her stuff and she like circles around the house like towards the lake, like I'm following her, and like I flung myself into the mist for her, and now we end up by the side of the lake, and it's like it's pretty big for a lake. It'd almost be a small sea. Justice probably thinks it is the ocean, but it's frozen. So it's like in oceans don't freeze, so it must be a lake. But it's like this is, you can see some parts where it's like this the sides of the banks are like intruding on the lake because it's hard. It's like water shouldn't be like that. I don't like it. And there's, I guess those might be deer. I'm not really great with animals. But the mage is just standing beside this lake, and there's a bit of like sun finally glinting through the trees, and there's like a thread of warmth after all that mist, and it should be beautiful, but it's not. It just feels empty because whatever it was that was holding this together is gone right now. And I'm just seething beside her, and I still can't say anything. I still can't say a goddamn word. Like staring, like I don't know, like wrought iron. Is that a word? No. Like like an iron is in the fire, and it's like that kind of like about to like melt, but not just quite. Like that is like the daggers I'm trying to stare at her, and it's still just like she doesn't even. And that's and I finally say like, just say something. I can't even yell it. I just like mutter it. Does anyone know if she says anything?
I think she's been holding a thin staff that she, in the Mistwood, she's been using to kind of clear away some of the brush, and she only uses it occasionally, otherwise it's at her back. But she just takes the staff and thumps it against the ground, and for when you feel that reverberation, and it's kind of like a call that's echolocating almost. But as someone from the Academy of Estalia, well versed in music and vibration and the magic that can bring, you feel it stop dead. It just rings out for a few feet and just dampens immediately.
My face is doing all this as of like, and I do get closer. Like I can't not get closer. Like this lake is clearly cursed, but Yeah. What's wrong with it?
Did you say the lake was frozen over?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the magus says, wait. And then you take a breath, and you take another breath, and under her staff, you see a face come under the ice, looking up at you. And it doesn't look hostile, but it's as if like waiting for you to say something.
I like fall to my knees and kind of like wipe the glass a little bit more the ice a little bit more to try to get a better view. And I just like, I guess I say hello, like I say like a greeting like falls out of my mouth, like I forget it even as I say it.
And I think this face is stark white, like it's as if this person or spirit has been under this icy surface for a long time, and instead of hearing any voices, as you have already heard in the Mistwood, no more voices, I don't think, you can feel its intent in your mind, and I think you feel, this person feels like when you open a matchbox and you're expecting a handful, a dozen of matches, but there's only one left. And that one match is still willing to lend you its light. So the presence asks you to make use of it.
I'm picturing like a fingertips to fingertips through the ice kind of moment.
Yeah.
And then the mage is looking very smug. Like a brief,
so.
like a bubble of smugness breaks through the impassive face and then kind of is muted, and she turns away and goes back inside, and I'm left by myself to kind of be like, maybe this is, maybe there's something, there is still something here that's what I make of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think Foothill is going to wander into the hall. And would Caspian be willing to come along for the ride?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I feel like Foothill wanders into the hall to kind of, partly to compare it to the hall from the Great Hall and Raven Hall, just for the sake of curiosity, partly because the Magus isn't there, and partly because now that we've left the Mistwood, and he says to Caspian as you're stepping through the Great Hall, and he says kind of in a low voice, it sometimes it can be a little shocking afterwards. Do you need a blanket, or maybe we could find you an extra coat just so you don't lose your warmth? I just want to make sure that you're still warm.
Caspian is like violently shivering. Says,
oh no.
But says, no, I just want to sharpen my delivery knife, actually.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Of course, I'm just gonna circle.
I don't want to do it alone, though.
Oh,
will you sit with me?
He's kind of taken aback a bit, but I'd be happy to. Yeah, we can sit. And he looks at a hall that is obviously designed for average-sized humanoids, and is like, "Would you be okay if I sat on the floor?"
Sure. Yeah. would you be okay if I sat on the table?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to sit on the table so we can see eye to eye.
That's amazing. I love it. And so yeah, so as you sit and as you start sharpening the blade, or the knife rather, Footle, watches but doesn't want to like stare. And so his gaze kind of drifts around the Great Hall, and kind of taking in what's been left behind by these Grey Rangers, and notices, do we mention, Irene, did your description mention anything on the walls, like portraits or like images of these people? Sorry, I'm blanking.
No worries. I think there totally can be portraits of like past Grey Rangers. Or
yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, so so I think he kind of Foothill alternates between watching what Caspian is doing just out of curiosity, and to make sure that he knows that Foothill is still there with him, and looking around the space and saying, says to Caspian, like, do you think these are the current Grey Rangers or the past Grey Rangers? Do you I bet they have stories, these people, don't you think?
And Caspian's singing and is just going to pause the song and be like, I think they're probably the same. I think that the past and the present are identical here. Do you feel any division between them?
And Foothill, there's a slight smirk, which you don't see very often, and he says, that's very much like the mist. And there's a note of like kind of pride and admiration as he says it. I like that one there, and he points it at not the biggest portrait by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the smallest ones. And to the viewers of this scene, it looks very familiar, from what has just happened out at the lake, though Foothill and Caspian don't know this. And just kind of points it and says, like, that I feel like that person's looking at me. Does that sound weird? I feel that, and kind of like with his massive face. Wait, maybe it's just because, I don't know. And then as he's trying to suss this out, that's when the Magus steps inside, from the interaction with Fawn, and you hear like the slight tap of this walking stick, and Foothill noticeably stiffens, doesn't look back, and the Magus says, that's exactly what I was hoping you were going to notice, and that's why we need to stay. And that will end that scene.
Oof. Good. All right. I'm going to need all three of you to help with this next one.
Done.
I need you to collectively speak for the Magus. Oh no, it happens to me. I forgot how to say it.
Premi Mohammed has staged a poll on Twitter, and I can't remember what got voted on, but anyway.
All right, well, Premi, if I defy your poll by mistake, I'm sorry. So yeah, I need the three of you to collectively speak for the Magus, for this. And that is going to determine whether or not I flip this coin over. And I need you to tell me. No, I won't. I was going to say you should tell me her answer now before you know what the question is, but I think that's a little stinky.
That's right. So do you want us to answer all three of us at the same time, or?
I need you to vote.
Oh, okay.
Because if you answer all three at the same time, I don't think Zoom will let me.
No, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That would be ideal, but okay. So the Magus has come into the hall and has said, "This is why we all need to stay." Mm-hmm. And as she's coming in, are Fawn and Justice coming in as well? Are we all together, or is it just? Yeah. Okay, so we're all together in here. And as she says, that's why we need to stay, Caspian's delivery knife finally gleams. And you can all see it is gleaming the way it's finally supposed to. It has finally absorbed a song, but it's not Caspian's song. And it's not the sound of the mages saying, "This is why we need to stay," either. It's a song that is rising in volume all around us. And as you look around at the portraits on the wall, all of the faces seem to be turned toward us and turned toward the mages. And there's a low but beautiful melody that comes from all around us. It comes from the dust in the floorboards. It comes from the cold ashes in the fireplace. It comes from the lake with the face underneath it. And the delivery knife is soaking in that song and shining so bright, you almost can't look at it. And Caspian's face falls. And Caspian says, "Oh, this can't be right. This can't be right. I'm not that kind of midwife." And then Caspian looks to the mages with a question. And the question is, "I thought I was supposed to deliver people to their birth. Am I the other kind? Is that why you brought me?" Is it unanimous?
It looked like
Dave.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, that wasn't a dramatic pause. I was watching.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
I thought you were so deep in thought. I was like, ooh, I did a bad thing.
No. Yeah, no, they have a thumbs up for me.
I mean, there's part of me that wonders, and maybe this is part of the magus that's also wondering this, that it's sweet that Caspian has thought all this time that there are two kinds of midwives. So yes, Caspian is the other kind of midwife. But that doesn't mean that all along he hasn't also been someone to bring life into the world. I think we see a bit of that realization on the magus's face in that moment, until maybe Caspian sees it in his own face.
Dude.
Yeah.
How could you say this?
All right. Okay. All right. No problem. Fine. Okay. Caspian is going to stand up on top of the table and then walk down the length of it toward the magus, holding the delivery blade, and step down onto a dust-covered chair and stand in front of the magus and say, "How do you want it to happen?" And that's going to be the end of my contribution to this scene.
My God. Oh, that is. I'm shaken. I don't know. Wow. think, oh, this is, I just feel the tension building and building and building. um, huh. I think I'll choose I'll choose Wild Altar, A Fresh Desire. As we're all gathered in this hall, Justice, who just followed the Magus in, has just been trying to keep up with what's going on, and has put down their notebook completely and is instead entirely engrossed in what's happening around them, and looks up at Caspian on this table, and everyone else is either standing or, in Foothill's case, sitting next to him. And Justice kind of stands in front of Caspian and the mages and looks between them and just like hesitatingly, just again almost like afraid of breaking the spell of the voices that are gathering around them still. Justice asks Caspian, "Are you sure this is what you want?"
Caspian looks back to Justice, and for the first time in his entire life, he says, "I don't think it really matters what I want right now."
And that is so, I think, so far into this youth whose name was given to them because the family that raised them wanted them to pursue a life of seeking justice and of what's right and wrong. But since very young, I don't think they think that it's all, it shifts with wherever they go. It changes depending on the situation and the people that they're with. And justice is more a sound than a concept. And perhaps for the first time in their life, they see that when there are bigger things at play, principle matters, and instinct can lead you to something bigger than the little stone bridges that you are building across little streams. And I think Justice looks to the mages and waits too for their answer to Caspian's question. And that's my scene.
So we are going to wrap up our session here. There's a handful of answers, there's a handful of questions on the table. So I'd love for folks to, maybe we'll go around one more time and share something we're wondering about, perhaps ourselves, and something we're wondering about the world. and see if that leaves us in a space that we're good to go. Does that sound good for people? It is slightly breaking my heart that we didn't roll that die for that last spot. But I feel like we might all be wounded. Is that because that's that plus that gives you the trait that you carry. So I think if it helps, the question that Fawn carries in her right now is like, what's it worth lighting a spark for? And has she ever really thought about that beyond what has been expected of her, or beyond what got her further moment to moment and the kind of game that she needed to play to survive? So she's wondering what's next if she actually like participates in something and kind of like throws herself in fully. And this moment with the magus is not it so much like she thought it was. It's not the solution to the predicament she'd gotten herself into. And it means that she's going to have to actually come up with a solution as opposed to just this panning out a certain way. And the thing that I'm wondering about the world that we've just been in is the Treant seemed to tell us that they knew that this was a moment in a bigger cycle. So even though everything feels like it's dying or falling apart, I'm just wondering what is going to usher in the next thing, and whether or not Fawn will be a part of it or not. So if anyone wants to dive in, we don't necessarily have to go in order if people are still thinking, but
I think my question about the world is similar to yours, and like, yeah, like, you know, always this question about what happens next. But with that cycle, will there still be a magus? Do we need there to be a magus? And I think Foothill is probably wondering that too. And I think like Foothill went into this hoping that there might be a solution presented for you know, what has happened in the Mistwood and what the Mistwood has lost, and what he's lost and what his people have lost. But I don't think really believed it was possible, which is part of the reason why, you know, he would never look in a certain direction. But now I think he's wondering whether that even matters. Like, now that he has, you know, he's met these new people, like, is it just a different place that he's going to bring and carry that warmth with him? I think is what he's wondering. But it'll depend a lot on this moment here.
Similar to Fawn's like trajectory, I think in this whole like justice is also on the brink of discovering something about their place in the world. I think I'm curious about whether they'll align themselves with this greater cycle that seems to be it's been alluded to, it's been in the background, if that's what's going to happen to them, or if they're going to like at the end of Lord of the Rings, where they just go back to normal life. Like, does Justice see all of this, experience it, take a brief part in it, and go back to being an architect and a groundskeeper, or do they find companionship and purpose and become more unyielding? And as for the world, there are such intriguing and beautiful place names and illustrations up ahead. I'm really curious. I want to visit everyone's hometown, and so far we've done Ravenhall, we've done Barleytown, we've done Mistwood. It's only Astalia, our
I promise you, Starfall Academy is a mess.
I want to see the mess of Starfall Academy. Like, in real life, I graduated Starfall Academy. Yeah, I went to music school. I know how it goes. I want to see how our weird, scrappy gang fares in Astalia and Starfall Academy, and seeing that part of Fulham's life. As well as just the budding friendships and dynamics that are at work. Yeah.
On a personal level, Caspian is wondering if he'll continue getting to know these people after whatever is going to happen next. If Foothill will be his friend, if Justice will be his friend, if Fawn will tolerate him. Part of him wants to stay here with them forever and ever and build a little family and a life where they never have to go through anything hard again. And part of him knows that they have to keep going. And so he's curious about whether it's possible to maintain connections, especially given what's to come and all of our parts in it. Because as Caspian knows from working as a midwife, no one person delivers a baby into the world. And so he knows that all of us have a part to play in whatever the magus brought us here to do. And in terms of the world, Caspian wants to know if anything is actually different. Because this whole time he's been learning more and more that everything is the same. Friends and enemies are the same thing. Living and dead brothers are the same thing. Family and strangers are the same thing. Architects and scholars are the same thing. Giants and teeny tiny people. All of it is the same. And now birth and death are the same. And Caspian is like, is anything just one thing? Am I just one thing? Or any of these people just one thing? I have a feeling the answer is no.
But perhaps he might feel differently about it. It might be a celebration rather than a despair.
Well, I love that we're finishing on the flash of a knife in the air and not actually discussing next moment. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So thanks to all our players, and I think Brandon, do you have some things you want to share?
Yeah, I'll just do closing. Again, thank you to all three of you for joining this. That was a friggin' blast. Holy crap! And like my feels, my poor little feels. What am I supposed to do? No, that was that. I had no idea what to expect from Fall of Magic, really, and that was so much fun. So thank you to the three of you for joining us. Thank you to Brandon Primary, or Brandon the First, as we've decided. Brandon O'Brien, who is behind the scenes doing our tech, which is amazing. So huge thanks to you, and to again Greg Wilson for hosting us here, and to all of you for watching and joining this very first game. I just want to give a shout out for our next one. If you enjoyed this and had a blast watching, our next one is a different one shot with different people. So it'll be Mike Underwood, my other co-host and kind of co-organizer for this little scheme. We'll be playing, running a game of Court of Blades on December the 5th, right here on this channel, with Brent Lambert, CL Clark, Carrie Byrne, and Christiana Ellis are going to be the 4 players for that. And so it'll be a totally different game, totally different setup, a lot of backstabbing and political intrigue. Kind of sounds like Estalia now that I say it out loud. But it's going to be great. So I hope you come and check that out. And do check out our website for details again on how to enter our giveaways and show some love to some deserving charities. So yeah, that's it. Thank you to everybody. This was a blast. Hope you enjoyed, and take care.